Hey, so I was just thinking about how, oh, big deal, I just had an egg, and first solid food that I've had in a long time, and I was thinking that it seems perhaps kind of weird to share this with people. Of course, anybody that's been paying attention to any of these posts know that eating solid foods is not something I've been able to do, and so yeah, I had an egg, and then I thought, well, this can roll, as it were, right into what this channel is supposed to be about, which is mental health and strategies for creating our own positive mental health. And so the reason for that is because while the experience of eating the egg was like, okay, just between me and the egg, but I had promised myself that on Monday I would go ahead and do my best to try to eat an egg. And I followed through in order to do this, because as anybody who knows me knows that one of the characteristics that I think I can define myself by is my integrity. And then this goes back to an assignment that I give, or had given many of my clients, which is a values list. And the thing about this values list is that most people, they have kind of a sense that they can and should live by some sense of values, but then maybe can recite 10. And I've tried this many times with my clients. Try it with yourself right now. Perhaps pause the video and just try to count out 10. Not that you have, that are 10 just values, period. Most people cannot come up with 10. And it's not about that. It's about knowing that, okay, if you do a search, a Google search, there's a values list that, if I remember correctly, is like 390 values long. Now, some of them are just lame, absurd, redundant, but there are plenty that will make sense to you. And if you look at these values, one thing that might strike you is, number one, well, what exactly does this mean? I mean, I think it's a great exercise in semantics and, identifying for oneself what exactly these particular values entail. And then the big question is, do I have my behaviors in alignment with the values that I have? And this is the really big question, because you see, when we have our behaviors out of alignment with our values, every little bit matters. So that, I mean, if I identify as, let's say, a generous person, but I'm really stingy, or I identify as a nice person, but I have mean tendencies that I conveniently ignore, or more to the point, use cognitive dissonance, which is ignoring that we have these tendencies that we don't like about ourselves, and therefore just ignore them. So in just simply identifying something like integrity, we can break that down to the core of its meaning, which is, and you hear it right in the word, is integration. So the idea is that we are integrating our behaviors and our actions, and they're in alignment. And they're not in alignment just out of convenience. They're in alignment because that's the way we choose to live our lives. And so this means that I will do my very best to behave the same way across venues, and regardless of who I am around and what I am doing. So anybody that knows me knows that this is me. You don't get a different me in my office than you get at my home or out in the world. This is who I am. It's integrated. I will follow through on what I say I'm going to do, because that is, a part of having integrity. And if I can't do what I say I'm going to do, then I will do my best to explain why something has changed, and what I said I was going to do is now not happening. That is the right way to behave as far as I'm concerned. So even if it's a message or a promise to myself, as it were, for example, eating the egg. I had told myself that I would try to do this by Monday, and so regardless of the fact that nobody was around, regardless of the fact that nobody would know the difference, I had that commitment to myself, because if one just haphazardly changes their direction and decides that that's an okay thing, well, then what are you left with? I mean, there's, anybody can say anything, and you end up with, your words meaning nothing. And, they should mean something. They should, in my opinion, mean everything as far as that goes. So, what I would very, very much like to encourage people to do, as far as their own positive mental health, is to seek out this values list and really first do something of a defining inventory about, well, what does this particular thing, what does loyalty mean? What does, being punctual mean? I mean, it may seem obvious until, we start working these things, and then it maybe is a more difficult task than one might think. So you look at that and then identify from the values that you feel are important to you, how much you have your behaviors in alignment with these values. And when you see a discrepancy, do what you can to then get your behaviors in alignment with those values, because every little bit matters. It's about having healthy balance in our lives. If I say that I'm going to be an honest man, and then I choose times to lie or misrepresent myself or some kind of other thing, then that discrepancy matters. It's not going to cause me to have mental health disorders in and of itself. However, get enough things like that out of balance, and that will matter. And so if one wants to look at this from the standpoint of how can you get better mental health, well, this is what this channel is all about. It's about trying to point in the direction for you to improve your mental health, your mind state, and thereby you will also improve the mental health of those around you. Maybe just incrementally, but these things do have a tendency to rub off on each other. Anybody that knows, I mean, you take a sane person and you throw them in a psych ward, and it's not going to be very long before that person probably needs psych meds, is my guess. Anyway, that is the brief overview of the values list. Anybody who has been a client of mine knows that this is an assignment that I've been giving for years, and it's a wonderful assignment to do. So, cheers. Go do it. All right. Bye-bye.